All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
But thank you for being here. You know, Mark Thompson is at his real job, so we are hijacking his show today, me and Albert. How are you, Albert?
I'm good. Good morning, Kim. How are you doing?
Awesome.
It's happy
Good
Friday.
morning to you. It is Friday, which means this is going to be an amazing show. You've cooked up a wonderful Florida Fabulous Friday, Fabulous Florida. I'm going to get in so much trouble. You know, here's the thing, Albert. I was thinking about this last night. You know, Mark listens to the show.
Of course, yes.
I was really trying to keep that whole phone call air check thing to a real brief phone call, but I've already screwed it up right off the top, and I just can hear it now. So hopefully that's the last time I mess it up. I don't know. But
Well,
so
we'll see you pronounce the wine varietals that we have possibly later. So
let me get the wine.
that's another thing Mark's very strict with you about too. So we'll see how that goes.
I've screwed. We have at 10:30 FFF, we'll just call it that. We have at 11 o'clock a discussion with two of my very favorites. That is Michael Shure and Jim Avila. And then at 11:30, of course, movies with Michael Snyder. But, you know, I can't start this show. My news sense will not let me start the show without really hitting the lead story, which is the Trump indictment, the first federal indictment.
There's never been anything like this.
Of a former president. And I saw a lot of messages last night. Oh, this is the moment where I miss KGO. This is the moment where I wish you guys were still on the air. Well, here we are. And there is absolutely no better person to talk about this with and to dig into it with than an award-winning journalist. You know him. He's a friend of the show. He is, ABC's senior national correspondent, a 2020 correspondent, covered the White House for several years. Of course, big time. It is Jim Avila. Hey, Jim Avila, everybody.
Good morning, Kim. How are you?
Hi,
What a day,
thanks
huh?
for being here.
Woo.
Oh, so that was a surprise. I mean, I think I knew it was coming, but I didn't know it was coming so quickly.
Well, kudos to the Independent, believe it or not, because on Wednesday, they said that they thought that they reported, put it in their paper online, that he was going to be indicted on Thursday. And I didn't retweet it or anything because...
Oh, you know, you left me, and I don't know why. Oh,
Yeah,
well.
our stream service has been kind of spotty. Jim.
Oh, there you are
And
again.
you're back now.
Yeah, but I can't hear him. Jim Avila, I don't know if you can hear me, but I cannot hear you for some reason. So
Yeah, our
I don't
stream-
know. Yeah. I didn't know the Independent had that information. Nope, I still can't hear you.
Yeah, just try rejoining, Jim.
Yeah, you might have to go out and come back in again. But I'm excited to have Jim Avila. So hopefully we'll get that tech stuff worked out in just a moment and talk about that. But yes, so I didn't realize that the Independent had kind of called that, but indicted, here's what I can tell you. Indicted on 7 counts in the special counsel's classified documents probe. And again, it is the first time that a former president has faced federal charges. He faces a charge under the Espionage Act. Charges of obstruction of justice, destruction or falsification of records, conspiracy and falsification of records, false statements, rather. Of course, he, as former President Trump, denied any wrongdoing. He came. Do you have the video of that, of him, Albert? He came out last night with this video where, of course, he lays the groundwork, just like he laid the groundwork before the last election, when months before the election, he said, if I don't win, it's all a scam and a hoax, and they've tampered with it, and it's all their fault, not my fault. If I don't win, it's because they cheated. Way before the election, he said that. Of course, laying the groundwork for the case that the big lie, the big hoax, right? And so now we get this groundwork laid as well. The only reason they're doing this, he says, is because I'm a candidate for president. Okay, right. Let's bring AB's formerly of ABC and now friend of the Mark Thompson Show, Jim Avila, back to the mix.
Sorry about that,
Hi.
Jim. Hope it works now. Okay.
Text
So
stuff
anyway, I
happens.
was just saying that, and I heard a little bit of what you had to say, is that kudos to the Independent, and I kind of ignored it, didn't retweet it or anything like that, and was talking among friends, including Mark, that's interesting, but nothing was happening. And then yesterday, after the courts are closed, I thought, well, nothing's happened, So I kind of talked to friends and said, well, I guess they were wrong. And then as soon as I said that, boom, everything broke loose. This was after the courts were actually closed, and of course, as you just said, it was Donald Trump himself who announced it. He one thing he is
got to get out in front of it,
good
Jim.
at is getting ahead of the story, laying the narrative. And so he got out that narrative you were just speaking about, the narrative of, Joe Biden is out to get me. This is the current president worried that I'm running against him, and they're trying to undercut my presidency. And of course, Biden has been very careful not to mention it. He didn't mention it today. He ignored questions about it today. He doesn't, he is being smart. As David Axelrod said, I would advise him to do exactly what he's doing and not get involved, not comment, because it would just play right into that narrative that he's behind it. And of course, there's a special counsel here. It's not even Merrick Garland. This is a guy who was separate from the Justice Department, was in fact working for the internationally, and was brought back to lead the investigation. And he is a no-nonsense guy. One of the things I was saying was, NBC got that video of him the other day walking down the street to Washington, and he didn't say a word, but his demeanor was, I was scared, and I haven't committed any crimes. I'm sitting over here, and he's not to be messed with, and I think he's got the business end of things going on right away.
The one thing I think I was reading in the Washington Post that President Biden did say was that Americans can trust the Justice Department.
Yes. And I think that's what's interesting too. Kevin McCarthy has already come out and called it, weaponization of the Justice Department and the FBI. All the Republicans are lining up on that talking point at this point, and they don't even yet know what's in the indictment. They don't know until probably Tuesday. And what's interesting about that, Kim, is that on Tuesday, this is going to be a spoken indictment, according to ABC News. So what that means is that this, unlike the one in New York, which on the first day, there was very little information coming about what it was until they released it later. This time, it appears as though the federal prosecutors will stand up in that Miami court and lay out the charges against Donald Trump, and in detail, I'm told, by ABC News. And that should be fascinating. And I don't know if that'll change a lot of people's minds, but I bet you it changes if there were any independents out there that were still holding out.
Yeah.
Some moderate Republicans, if there are any of those left, then that might, in fact, change their mind, or at least open their minds to waiting until the trial happens.
Do you think the reason we're seeing the charges now had anything to do with the revelations in recent days about, the audio recording with the flapping of the paper and all that maybe kickstarted whatever we're seeing happening?
I think it was pretty damning evidence. But today, in fact, there's a transcript of that call that's been put out, and in that transcript, this is it's not a call; it's a meeting, and it's a meeting with somebody who's writing a book about President Trump, and I'm actually writing a book about Mark Meadows and his chief of staff, and they're interviewing Donald Trump. And Trump is agitated about the fact that one of his defense chief, one of the army chiefs, has said that he had plans to attack Iran. And he's agitated about that and says, that's not true. In fact, I've got these documents, these papers, and you hear him rustling them. Mm-hmm. And he says, here's one. It says that I wasn't doing that. Here's another one that says I'm not doing that. And then he says, but I can't release these because they're secret and I'm not president anymore, so I can't unclassify them. Hello, there's your defense, this whole defense that his lawyers have been putting out all over the press for the last weeks, up in flames. He admits that he has classified documents, number one. Number two, he admits that he can't declassify them when he's not president. So that's a very important document. I think that was very, indicative and one of the reasons why he was indicted now. I think also the videotapes that they found of his aide, his valet, his bagman, moving boxes, and that guy was this morning also indicted, which was new. This morning he was indicted as well.
Is that related to the flooding from the pool of the document area? I don't know.
Again, no specifics, but I think it has something to do with the moving of the boxes. That's for sure. And and what's interesting is that I've heard a lot of legal folks say this morning that if he didn't know what was in the boxes, if he didn't, this valet didn't know what was in the boxes, he wouldn't have been charged. He had to have knowledge of what he was doing. So he was, according to the federal government, they allege at least, that he was an active participant in this conspiracy. I was glued. I mean, as a news person, I'm sure you were too.
Oh,
as a political junkie. I mean, once it came out yesterday, I didn't turn the TV off until I couldn't keep my eyes open anymore last night. Watching what was going on.
One of the things in talking to people about it, well, I have a friend and I said, I told her, did you hear about this? And she said, oh, it doesn't mean anything. He's never going to jail. Nothing's ever going to happen, which kind of reminded me of this comment from Lori. She says, do you really expect this to have any meaningful consequence other than to make him a martyr to his MAGA people and energize them to campaign and vote? I mean, are we going to see him ever go to jail? And is it a good thing for a former president of the United States to be incarcerated? Is that good for America or bad for America? I don't know.
Look, the whole Trump presidency has been bad for America. So is this another chapter in the terrible things that Donald Trump is doing to this country? Yes. In answer to Lori's question, I think there's a good possibility that there will be meaningful consequences. I do think that and remember, this is one of four things now, right? So you got the New York hush money payment and his lying about on his records. You have the second thing to drop, which is the Mar-a-Lago documents. Still to come in Washington, D.C., will be the January 6th indictments, if there is an indictment, but that's the investigation and certainly possibility of that. And we know in Georgia that that's coming up in July. So that's the fourth. Out of those four, something's going to happen, in my belief. I think it will. Now, is there a scenario where nothing happens? And that's very frightening for this country, because the scenario is, and I'm just going to put this out there because Mark's not here and he's the doom and gloom guy. I don't really think this is going to happen, but this is the scenario that people are on his side are thinking is going to happen. He's able to continue to run for election, right? This makes him a martyr.
Yep.
Somehow he wins.
Even if he's convicted of a crime, he can run, right?
He can run. Even if he's convicted before the election, he can continue to run. So he makes himself a martyr. This case he's been building, for months works, and he demonizes and says the FBI and the U.S. attorney have been weaponized by the Bidens, and they're after him. He wins the election. He can pardon himself, And then
What kind of
if
system is that? That is
and if-
cockamamie craziness right there.
absolutely. And if the trial hasn't happened, or if there's still trials to happen, he can order the Justice Department to drop the charges. So, is there a lane? I think it's a very small lane, okay? But there's a lane. Yes, his people will be weaponized, will be energized, in my opinion. That may wear off, but I think equally energized will be Democrats and independents in this country who see it for what it is. He lost when his people were energized in 2020. So he will. I don't think they'll energize enough to beat the other people who are energized by the absurdity of this and the treason of what's going on here. And I believe, unlike Mark, I continue to believe in the overall goodness of the American people and of humanity. And there's no way that goodness is going among the majority of people in this country, which I continue to believe is 70% of the non-Trumpers, the non-MAGA people, will allow that to happen, will allow him to escape justice.
Okay, but having said that,
yes,
it's shocking to me to see the double-digit lead in the recent polling of GOP candidates and potential candidates that Trump has over DeSantis, with all of the indictments, with a civil conviction of sexual abuse, with now this, his base does not divert from supporting him. And I don't think that you would see, as you mentioned, the GOP members coming out and saying, oh, they're weaponizing the Department of Justice and we still support Trump, if he didn't have the numbers to say, look, I'm going to be your candidate, so you better line up behind me.
Well, it's a Republican primary, okay? That's a whole different thing than the general election. And the Republicans saw what happened at the midterms because in my opinion, there were two big reasons they lost or didn't make gains in the midterms they thought they were. Number one was abortion, of course, and that issue is not going away. And number two was the January 6th insurrection. And this is a continuation of that. And while he will continue to resonate among that pocket of Republicans who only watch Fox News or one of the other right-wing media, that filters out all of this other stuff that's negative about him. So they don't see it. And so they're not going to change. I don't believe they're going to change. He'll probably still win the Republican primary unless these charges, really stick somehow. And I don't think they're going to stick in the Republican Party that much. I think Chris Christie's going to do his best to attack him, and this gives him more ammunition. But will it have an effect? Will on that base? No, I think he still is in the best position to win the Republican primary. But I think that's the end of the line.
I am seeing so many people want to talk about this issue, and there's a lot of questions, and I agree with this comment from Hula Staff rather, my bad, I'm sorry, who says Georgia and January 6th are much worse, in my humble opinion, than the document incidents, unless the document incidents are connected to somehow selling United States secrets, or because that's been floated as well. So if it's a crime against America, if it's not just, I took these documents because I wanted to have them because somehow I'm, power hungry and the rules don't apply to me. But we know that one of the charges is under the Espionage Act. So while we don't know exactly what that means yet, because we haven't seen the indictment, that's kind of a little scary. So I don't know how you have a president who then gets elected and pardons himself for charges related to espionage, and how that's allowed to stand. It's really frustrating.
It is a frustrating thing, but in this country, you're innocent until proven guilty. So until he's found guilty, then that's an issue. Now, do I believe that these charges are serious as insurrection? Probably not. But it does depend upon what you're saying here, Kim, is what he did with those documents,
Right.
who he showed them to. The fact that in that audio tape, which we have a transcript of, that he was showing them to a reporter or talking about them, what the contents were in that room to somebody who doesn't have a security clearance, that's a problem. We don't know who these people are that he's shown them to. The people he has at Mar-a-Lago are troublesome. There are, we know that there was once a Chinese spy in Mar-a-Lago who was seen taking a picture with him. So we do know that there are, there are
make
people.
Stuff up, Jim. You just can't.
It's just amazing. So, and we have to be a little careful of the espionage charge, and that's because, according to the legal experts I was listening to yesterday, and I'm not a lawyer, I'm a reporter. The espionage charge doesn't mean that he committed treason at this point. Okay. Just the handling of the documents the way he did, the way he is alleged to have done, doesn't it could come under the Espionage Act. Doesn't mean that he sold them to Russia or sold them to Saudi Arabia. I think, my personal opinion has always been, knowing Trump and watching his way he acts, that it was an ego thing. That just like he did, he thought they were his to use, his to show off. Look what I have. Here's the letter from the North Korean dictator, and how much he liked me, and showed them around.
That's kind of that's a best case scenario, right?
Yes, but that's still bad, and it's terrible, and it's wrong. If he did either try to use them for blackmail, which is possible, or use them for his economic gain, which he's been a grifter since day one, and that's certainly possible. That's a real problem. And or if he, gave them to Putin because he wants to build a hotel in Moscow, that's a problem. But otherwise, I agree with her that January 6th, to me, because it's treason, is a more important issue. And I noticed in the comments one from from our viewers or listeners that state charges he can't pardon himself on. That's true, but as president, he can certainly use a lot of influence on the Republican Georgia officials when he won election again, if he wins election again, to try to get that overturned. But that is a problem for him, and that's great. That's wonderful.
Check out this comment from Phineas, because I didn't know that was if this is the case. It's ironic the law Trump passed about documents will be used to prosecute him. He intended the documents law for Hillary. I don't know. I didn't know he passed a documents law, and if that is being used against him. I don't know.
Yeah, he passed a law that or signed a law. And I'm not sure it's a law or if it was an executive order. I'd have to look back on that, but that did make it illegal to have classified documents on your device. Okay, because Hillary Clinton was accused of having some classified documents on her personal device. Of course, she was never charged with that, and never went to trial on that. And that's one of the things he says is, unfair use of government resources to get him, and they didn't go after everybody else. He also claims now that his issue with documents is the same as Biden, which it's not. As the best analogy I've heard, and I used this before on your program, is that Joe Biden walked out of the store with items in his basket that he didn't pay for, and when stopped by the security guard said, "Oh, I'm sorry, here they are, take them back, I'll pay for them." Donald Trump, in his basket, had some documents, walked out of the store, was stopped by security, and ran away and hid them. That's the big difference in this case. That's not what Mike Pence did, and that's why he's already been cleared by the Justice Department. That's not what Joe Biden did, and that's why he's not been charged as of yet, and has a special counsel still investigating that.
I mean, you have to think that maybe our policy on the keeping of top secret documents is a little lax, and maybe there needs to be better oversight of all that. But it's clear that when it was discovered that other politicians had these documents, they immediately said, "Oh my God, I'm sorry, take them back. It was an oversight, an error." And that's not what happened here.
Right, exactly. And that's why Donald Trump was indicted, is that not only did he not give them back. So, this Republican argument, the talking point continues to be that he's been treated unfairly. The FBI raided his home when they were not, when he was still cooperating, while he was cooperating with in a process of returning these documents. Well, that's simply not true. The timeline of this was they talked to them, asked them to bring some back. He sent some back, not all of them. They said, "Hey, there's a lot of stuff missing here." They then had to, he didn't send anything back. They subpoenaed him. He didn't send anything back. When they didn't get anything back after the subpoena, the FBI was asked to investigate. The FBI got a search warrant from a judge, not on their own, just kind of willy-nilly walking into his house. They got a search warrant in which you have to prove probable cause. And they did prove probable cause, and they went in and they found more documents. So, and they continued to find more documents as it went on. So
they found him here, different. They found him there, they found him up over here.
Everywhere you turn, there's a document.
Yeah.
Here's a document for you. Here's a document for you, and for you too. So,
thank you, Oprah.
Huge difference in what both, and he keeps pointing to Obama. Obama's was totally different. Obama's had an agreement with the archives. The archives sent people out with the documents, found a neutral location, secure location that they could have next to where Obama could go and review the documents. He didn't put them in his house on the south side of Chicago. Yeah. He went to a place to look at them. And so all this whataboutism and the smoke, plays to the ears of Fox and plays to Fox News, and to his core supporters. But I think if we repeat over and over, that's why it's so important what the media does. I've been very critical in my columns recently about what CNN has been doing, and they did it again with Nikki Haley, Nikki Haley on national television in their town hall, said that the leading cause of suicide among young girls is transgenderism. Their fear of that a transgender person is going to walk into their bathroom. That has nothing to. There's no fact that backs that up. And CNN just sat there and let her say it.
Yeah.
There's no, and it's just wrong.
She also said some outrageous things about late-term abortion that was like head-scratching, and you're thinking, what? No.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Trump does that constantly, and we have to be very careful. There was a Trump attorney on CNN this morning, and I'm trying to remember her name. She does that program where they have three of them. She used to be the morning anchor. Maybe one of your viewers will help, but it'll come to me in a minute, but she was on with a Trump attorney who just said some of the things I just talked to you about the talking points, and she let it go. At the end of the segment, she turned to her partner, John Berman, and said, you're next. No pushback, and that just can't happen in today's world. Trump has changed the way the media needs to work.
Yeah.
We can't operate as though this is the Reagan era. It's not. We have to, as reporters, stand up and push back.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that is extremely clear. And something else very clear, Jim Avila, is that I could talk to you about this for the entire 2-hour show and then go beyond that. Oh, I'm frozen in time again. But I have to tell you that what I am excited about is that I do get you back and I do get to continue the conversation, because at 11 o'clock, I get to hear you and Michael Shure talking about this again. And I have more things to ask you as well. We'll dig into those town halls and other things as well. So I am going to take a moment and a beat and have a little bit of fun with Florida on this wonderful, fabulous Friday. And then I'll check back in with you. Is that okay?
That's great. We'll see you. And I'm sure Michael has plenty of insightful things to say.
I'm sure you can hardly wait.
I love him.
Thank you, Jim Avila. We love you. We'll see you in a minute. Bye. Oh, I'm frozen and it's not looking very good. I'll tell you what. Oh, man. You want to do some news, Albert? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Yeah, let's get the news. We'll get your webcam restarted. So I'll hit the thing, and when you're ready, we'll get going.
Well, unfortunately, I can only restart my webcam when I pop out and pop back in. So let's just do a little bit of news and yeah. On the Mark Thompson Show, I'm Kim McAllister, and let us begin with, again, former President Trump, the first former president to be indicted on federal charges. I don't mean to sound so gleeful about that. It is what it is. He faces 7 counts related to his handling of classified documents. In an interview Thursday with Fox News Digital, Trump said he is totally innocent and he will plead not guilty. And coming up, we'll have the video of his response to this indictment. An aide to former President Trump also faces indictment in the case surrounding these classified documents. Reports say Walt Nauta, who has worked for Trump both at the White House and at Mar-a-Lago, is facing charges too. Wall Street Journal reporting Nauta has been a focus of the investigation after he was seen on surveillance footage moving boxes from a storage room. And President Joe Biden is set to speak in North Carolina at this hour. He and First Lady Jill Biden are at the newly renamed Fort Liberty, formerly Fort Bragg, to attend an event in support of a program called Joining Forces. That is Jill Biden's initiative to support the military and veteran families, caregivers, and survivors. The man suspected in Natalie Holloway's 2005 disappearance now pleading not guilty to extortion charges. Joran Vandersloot appeared in an Alabama courtroom today after being extradited to the United States from Peru yesterday. He faces charges for allegedly trying to get $250,000 from Holloway's mother in exchange for the location of her body. The Sudanese Armed Forces and Rapid Support Forces agreed to a 24-hour ceasefire. It was announced by Saudi Arabia and the United States, with a statement from the Saudi foreign minister saying it will start tomorrow morning. Both warring factions agreed to rest and let humanitarian aid get through to the citizens throughout Sudan. Yeah, there was a question because of all the smoke on the East Coast whether the Belmont Stakes horse event would be canceled, but it looks like it'll take place tomorrow in New York. The horses began once again working out at the track at Belmont Park today, and the governor of New York paused apparently the workouts yesterday because of the poor air quality and the smoke from Canadian wildfires. But again, the race will continue. Things will go on. So I guess that's the way it's going to work out. And I don't know if you heard this story, but Bill Murray, I guess, has another girlfriend. Is that right? I don't know. Do we care about that? Yeah. Her name is Kellis. And apparently Kellis can bring the boys to the yard, is what this story is saying. The singer allegedly dating the award-winning actor Bill Murray. He's kind of a tough customer. I don't know. Sources say the two have been spending a lot of time together in the US and the UK, and he's been at all of her performances. They were even spotted at the same hotel. Ooh la la. There's a 29-year age difference between the two, but Apparently they're bonding and spending a lot of time together. Yeah. So they say they don't want to put a label on their situation yet because, you know, they're not ready to do that. But yeah, they're dating. And kind of law and order-ish, Border Patrol agents have seized $4 million worth of drugs hidden in a shipment of Brussels sprouts. The drugs found in a truck at a cargo facility in California. There were 148 packages of
There's
meth
never been anything like this.
with a value of more than $4 million in the Brussels sprouts in the San Diego area near the point of entry at Point Isidro. So that is the news. And let us now get to next FFF. There you go.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Smash it with your iron rod.
Who's Mark Thompson?
Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson?
What he's got going here is a situation.
It's unbelievably offensive.
Put up your pants, my man. Pull up those pants.
Ralph Nader just sent me a book. Did he send you one too?
I offer this sincere apology to you today.
Everything is going extremely well.
Calling me a liar? Now what you call me?
You, sir, are a liar.
You are a cover-up artist, and you are a liar.
Liar, your pants are on fire!
Google told me.
Can you let him finish, sir?
It was wrong, it was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
No.
I'm going to tell you what I think.
What are the porn stars doing?
Do you have a secret talent?
Doesn't anybody but a weed?
100% effective, how about that?
Say what?
And this is their new host.
There is no defense for my conduct.
I misspoke. I stand corrected.
And I wanted to apologize to the Asian community, the Asian American community.
Time's up, mother effers.
And we are back. Welcome to the Mark Thompson Show. I'm Kim McAllister in for Mark, and you know it's Florida, Friday Fabulous Florida, and we are ready for it. Albert, you have put together some pretty good stuff, I can see. Right out of the gate, we're just going straight Florida.
I mean, it's not a lot of work on my end. I just need to find the stories. It's Florida is the one we got to thank. Florida was really, the past 3 weeks have been great for Florida. So
yeah. There's no, it's like it's a gift they're giving to you every time.
Yeah. They make my life easier when they do their thing. So shout out Florida.
Absolutely. And he is back from the UK. It is former super producer, although kind of always a super producer, John Daly. Welcome to the show.
Hey.
Hi. How was your trip?
I'm well. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly.
Well, you're coming in a little hot, Kim.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm always hot.
No, I just wanted to say that.
Oh. So is it true or do I need to adjust?
No, it's not true.
Okay. How was the trip to the UK?
It was amazing. It was basically like living in England for a month, which is really cool.
Receive the rod of equity and mercy.
I decided to blow through my entire generous radio industry severance pay. So it's
in
gone.
one fell swoop.
It's gone.
So I kind of tried to tell the story about you taking a picture of the rod of equity and mercy, but can you kind of run through that for us?
Yeah. So originally I wasn't going to go. This is my third time to London itself, and I had never been to the Tower of London. At the beginning of my trip, I didn't go because the crown jewels were not there. Right. They were busy.
What?
And so at the end of my trip, I realized they were back. And so I did the whole tourist trap thing. I spent $40, got in line, fought through all the tourists. And, they have like stanchions to get in to see the crown jewels. There's a bunch of other stuff in there that nobody cares about. right? So everyone just like, it's like a beeline past, everything else to get to the crown jewels. Yeah. And when you get there, they have like one of those people movers that look like an escalator in the airport, the flat escalator platform. And they have that right in front of the crown jewels, everything but the crown itself, like, the rod of equity and mercy and whatnot.
So you can't linger, like you're on the move.
You can't linger, but you can get off of it, go around the back of the room and get back on. Okay. Right. So it's like this dark room. And, I'm a rule follower, but I was like, there's no way I can get through here without taking a picture of the rod of equity.
Did you really just do that?
Yeah. So, and I'm pretty good at evading security. So in my peripheral vision, I could see the security guards on the left and the right. And I waited until they were gone. What I didn't count on is there was a third security guard in the middle behind the platform, kind of hiding in the dark.
Oh.
And I went on that platform 3 times. My first photo was completely blurry. The second photo was like out of frame. And the third photo, it was still blurry, but I got the shot. And the moment I got the shot, I hear this guard screaming at me, "Sir, put your phone down."
Oh.
Yeah, so I got caught.
But you did get the shot.
My bad. I'm sorry.
You did get the shot. We showed it here on the show.
Yeah.
So I think that was, that was the effort and the risk that you took, almost getting busted, I think makes that a very famous picture.
Well, and I realized I was already at the Tower of London, so if they wanted to take care of the problem, they could have sent me out to the back and strung me up.
I was interested in other pictures you showed, like the axe. Was that the axe that they used to behead people?
There were a lot of axes and a lot of chopping blocks. If anybody wants to see it, it's on my Instagram, Johnny Daly, the number 5, Johnny with an H. Yeah. And it was the largest one that they have. And they go through the whole history of it, and they explain that, there were a lot of people watching these executions, right? And so if you were more prominent, they kind of want to make it a bigger deal. So they would have a larger chopping block for your head.
There's never been anything like this.
If it was like a high profile execution, right? So this is like this one was in the best condition. So this was the largest chopping block in the best condition that they still have.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, welcome back to America with the Trump indictment. I'm sure it's very exciting for you to be home.
Have you seen how excited CNN is? I kind of only turn on CNN to see how excited they are.
They're like, woo!
Yeah.
Let's get to Florida because we've got a lot to talk about.
Okay.
This is, what is it?
I wrote it down for you. Look at my title.
Can't see it.
Friday Fabulous Florida.
It's time for Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
A look at the weirdest stories from our weirdest state.
We begin this edition with a Florida man contracting flesh-eating bacteria after being bitten by a relative while trying to break up a fight at a family function.
What?
I don't even know how it gets more Florida than
Are you willing to bet your lunch?
I am indeed willing to bet my lunch. There is alcohol involved.
Or meth.
Flora, or that whatever.
That sounds like bath salts, actually.
Yeah, bath salts, I was going to say. So the Florida man survived an infection of flesh-eating bacteria that he got in what they call bizarre fashion from another man while trying to break up a fight.
Is there a non-bizarre fashion?
I don't know. Donnie Adams attending a family event in Tampa Bay in February when 2 relatives began to tussle. This, according to the Daily Mail UK, interestingly enough. Adams attempted to get between them, but one of them ended up biting his leg before he could stop the fight. He immediately went to the hospital and got a tetanus shot and antibiotics, but apparently things only got worse. By the 3rd day, he said, "My leg was very sore. I couldn't walk. It was very warm and very painful." And he eventually went back to the hospital told he had necrotizing fasciitis, more commonly known as flesh-eating bacteria. It enters through breaks in the skin, travels through the muscle sheath, and destroys the healthy tissue. They had to do surgery to cut out the infected tissue in his thigh, which they think came from the bite. 70% of the tissue in the front of Adam's thigh needed to be cut out. He said, you're torn between being as aggressive as you can be to stop the infection from spreading and leaving as much tissue behind so it won't take 2 years to heal. But they say if he hadn't gone to the emergency room when he did, he would probably have been in septic shock or maybe even died.
I mean, I have a photo of this.
Yeah.
I'll quickly flash this on screen and then
It's
go
kind of
away from
yucky.
it. The clearly biting
Yeah.
goes a little differently in Florida.
It's pretty yucky. You can see that big black mark there under the glove. That's the tissue they had to cut out. Because if you don't cut out the tissue, the bacteria or the necrotizing fasciitis just keeps growing and eating more tissue. So you have to try to stop it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, that happened to him all over trying to break up a fight at a family function. Dude, that's horrible. Yeah. That's a pretty
There's
good
never
one.
been anything like
Okay.
this.
Next in the lineup, we have this Florida woman who, you know, as one does sometimes, felt like she needed to steal an ambulance because, you know, I mean, that's a fun Friday night is what that is. This Florida woman arrested after she stole an ambulance with an employee inside and then crashed it. Yeah.
That's kidnapping, isn't it?
Crashed it not once, but twice.
My bad. I'm sorry.
Let me do that again for you if you didn't see it the first time. Broward County deputies said the woman stole the ambulance near University Drive and McNabb Road in Tamarack. Where is that, John Daly?
Right by the Whole Foods.
Indeed it is. The employee was able to get out of the vehicle safely before the first crash. While deputies were searching for the ambulance, the woman was involved in a hit and run. No one was hurt. A little while
Did you
later,
really just do that?
The vehicle crashed into a tree. It was believed the woman got out before the ambulance hit the tree. Then she had to get into a different ambulance to be taken to the hospital for her injuries.
Did she steal that one too?
Yeah, no, that one was.
Do you
not...
think she remembered to turn on the lights?
idea, but it just might work.
Do you think she remembered to turn the lights on? You know, the sirens.
I mean, you got to.
I don't
You're in the driver's seat. You see all the buttons. You got to start pressing buttons.
Yeah, right. You have to have fun.
I don't think she had the proper protocols in place to know how to handle that.
The processes.
Yeah, no processes, protocols, and standards for the lights and sirens.
So you might want to try it one more time just to run that back. You know,
Yeah.
press the buttons, see how that goes comparatively to the crashing twice.
So let's talk about this Florida man with heroin, meth, arrested after breaking into a private patio to do what? Charge his phone. Because that's really
heroin
important.
and meth?
Yes.
Is that like a choose your own adventure? Because that's a different, party.
This Florida man found himself behind bars on burglary charges and drug charges after authorities say he broke into the patio of a home in Hernando County to charge his phone. The deputies say they were called to this home on Melicano Avenue after a woman discovered a strange man sitting on her patio when she went to let her dogs out. An off-duty deputy first to arrive at the home says he saw this man who appeared to be very relaxed, sitting on the patio, charging his phone at their electrical outlet. The deputy detained him and said the man told him he thought he was at his girlfriend's house, but admitted he didn't really know her address.
Okay, half of his face looks like heroin there on the right, and then the left side looks like meth.
Well, this is what happens when you try to do both. You've got to pick one at a time. The homeowner says she told the police she does not know this man, but he's identified as Anthony Stravino. She says, I did not give this person permission to be on my property. They found a small plastic baggie of heroin where he was sitting. They found another bag of heroin on him and a bag of methamphetamines in a small zippered case on his backpack.
What the hell is going on in the United States of America?
Which had several empty plastic baggies, a used syringe, and a scale. He is now charged with burglary of an occupied dwelling, trafficking of a controlled substance, possession of narcotics, and possession of drug paraphernalia. So
that's
well
a
done.
total rookie move, because if you want to charge your phone, what you do is you take your clothes off and you go down to Starbucks, right?
That's right. And
that's
then
what they do in
even
Florida.
bats an eye. Right. Then you're okay.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think it is a rookie move. I think he could have done much better. Next, let's talk about this Florida man's animal sanctuary, overrun by 600 rapidly multiplying pigs. He says, "I can't take this anymore."
You know, they
Animal
do this to
control
me all the
officers-
time. I don't know what the hell they do it for.
Poor piggies. They round up more than 600 pigs from this so-called animal sanctuary in Florida. Isn't a sanctuary supposed to be peaceful and safe? Yeah, but the owner was overwhelmed and had to call for help. They say it took about 4 days for officers in Escambia County to capture so many pigs on this 8-acre property used by this group called In Loving Swineness Sanctuary. Yeah, last year, the sanctuary,
A little too much loving, right?
In Loving Swineness, had about
Mask it
150
with your iron rod.
150 miniature pigs that its owners were using to remove invasive grass around the Florida Panhandle.
That's ironic.
But they were prolific breeders, these little piggies, and their population swelled to more than 600. Sanctuary operator calling the agency last week saying, "I just can't take it anymore." During the roundup, the pigs showed zero interest. How is a pig supposed to show interest in cooperating with animal control officers? They say they had to leave several of the larger hogs behind to make sure that no one got hurt. They say it's very difficult when you're dealing with so many animals, and that it shouldn't be the county's responsibility to clean up somebody else's mess like that. The captured pigs divided up, trucked off to farms and other new homes outside the county, and the landowner cited for violating a local zoning ordinance, and he gets a $250 fine.
It was wrong, it was stupid, and I'm trying to be a better person.
Remember to spay and neuter your pigs.
Oh, man. That doesn't sound like much of a sanctuary, I'm telling you. Let's see. We got another one here for you. Do we have time for another one? We do.
Yeah.
A Florida man accused of stealing endangered tortoises and rare comics worth thousands. This story seems familiar to me. I don't know if we did this or not.
Oh, we might have done this one already. We could just
have we done it? Okay.
Over this one.
Okay, well,
yeah, what a combination, John. I don't think John was around for this story, but yeah, what a combination. A tortoise, $10,000 tortoises and comic books were stolen.
Hey, when you're into rare items.
The collectibles. But let's go to this one. Florida woman spots enormous crocodile sunbathing in moored boat. This is happened in Isla Mirada, Florida. A 10-foot reptile apparently taking a liking to the spot on this woman's boat. The boat captain, Jenna Greer, says he kind of lives here now. She said, "I'm coming to work in the early morning to set up my boat that's docked next to this derelict one." And he was just there. He's there often, actually. There he is on the boat. And he's aware that I'm around, but not so shy as to jump into the water and swim away like other crocs in the area. No, he just jumps right into that opening there and sunbathes right on the pool deck. Crocodile stays for about 30 to 40 minutes after she first saw him. They don't know exactly how long he's been on the boat. They've been known to stay on the boat overnight as well, so she said he could have been there longer. But yeah, I guess maybe this is just his hangout now.
Well, he's probably an Instagram influencer. So, he's just there to take some photos.
There's never been anything like this.
I think that's kind of cute. She said he wants a boat ride too. So why not? She posted this on Facebook. It got like over 1,000 likes almost instantly. They're not allowed to feed these animals in Florida because I guess it causes them to become really aggressive. And so she just kind of has to let it be. And I guess you don't go anywhere on the boat until the crocodile decides it's time to jump off. And he was not jumping off. He just wanted to stay out there and hang out.
Well, a lot of people end up feeding crocodiles in Florida.
Feeding them
these
their
are
arm.
actually rare species, because this is an American crocodile, which isn't an alligator, which is the one that is in abundance. So these are kind of rare creatures here. There's only like 2,000 of them left in captivity, so it is a kind of a protected species.
Oh. Well, all right. Let us have one last story here on the old FFF, because this, I think, is really a Florida hallmark. There is a man that was arrested while robbing a store wearing a box. I guess that was his outfit of choice. He stole, allegedly, $15,000 worth of phones and cash. And they say he was thinking outside the box. No, he was inside the box. He entered iRepair Tech in Miami Gardens while wearing a cardboard box on his head. You know, as one does. The store's owner said the man shattered the store's glass displays, stole 19 iPhones and $8,000 in cash. He's seen in this video with a box on his head, but then the box fell off of his head, showing his face in full view of the camera. Can't afford a mask. I'll just wear this box. Yeah, I'm going to take this stuff. I can kind of see out the bottom of the box.
That was just sloppy right there.
Yeah, that was a sloppy.
It's a wild idea, but it just might work.
And I will say that the store owner asked around to see if anybody saw him. And eventually he learned the suspect was drinking with friends at a liquor store close to the crime scene. I'd be willing to bet, right? I'm telling you, he was arrested on charges of grand theft, burglary, criminal mischief, cocaine possession, and resisting an officer.
Sayonara, sucker!
Congratulations. I think you've got them all. A box.
That's a very San Francisco story.
You think so? With the box,
I could have seen that happening downtown on Market Street. Yeah, definitely.
So we need to have your favorites, but let's review. We have the man trying to break up a family fight who gets infected with flesh-eating bacteria after being bitten by a relative. We have the man who wanted to charge his phone, so he broke onto a private patio and was found with heroin and meth. We have the fine woman who stole an ambulance and crashed it twice. We have the animal sanctuary in loving swineness overrun with pigs. We have the sunbathing crocodile on the boat, and we have the man wearing a box on his head stealing the cell phones and the cash. What's your favorite, John Daly?
You know, I kind of like the guy who broke into the patio because he had multiple drugs, right? He had meth and heroin, so he was kind of keeping his options open. I kind of like that.
Okay.
It's very Florida. It's very Florida.
Yeah, I agree. What do you think, Albert?
Kind of like the pig story because it's kind of ridiculous because he started out with 150 and ended up with 600. Obviously, and he only ended up with a $250 fine. And people took his pigs, so it all ended well, and it's just a crazy headline and story.
John Slade says Joe Box is the winner. I see a lot of box. Yeah, box. Flesh-eating bacteria from Elise. Box man. Yeah, box head. Box man.
Eating bacteria is not very fabulous.
Well,
I mean, it's Florida, but
you're bitten by a relative while trying to break up a fight at a family function.
That's true.
Come on,
that's
some good stuff right there. Flesh-eating bacteria, so Florida. Necrotizing flesh. Yeah, Joe Box. Max Headroom. I'm gonna say flesh-eating bacteria. You know, normally I pick the alligator, but I have to go.
You mean
with
the crocodile?
The crocodile, but I.
And by the way, good croc knowledge, Albert.
It was very impressive.
Yeah.
So did you do a poll, Albert?
For as long as I have, you know that crocodiles are a rare thing, you know, and not quite your alligator. It's a bigger alligator, so.
Yeah. The only nude story was the alligator. That's true. We didn't have a lot of nudity today. That's a bit of a disappointment, but we'll get it next time.
Well, I like how they said he was sunbathing. I think he was just existing.
Okay, more nerdy knowledge. It's a cold-blooded creature, so it probably was sunbathing.
Oh.
So
well, it's always sunbathing,
it
right?
needed the sun, not actually just trying to get a tan, you know.
All right. So I don't know. Did you do a poll, Albert?
I did, and it didn't work, but
okay.
I'm sorry.
That's par for the course, right? Whoever is producing this thing.
That is okay. And this is Friday Fabulous Florida.
This has been Friday Fabulous Florida.
There is a gigantic alligator in my kitchen.
Y'all come back now here.
John Taylor, for joining us for that, for having some fun on Friday. I always appreciate you being here.
It's a lot of fun. And I appreciate being in a Jim Avila sandwich. That's kind of cool.
Oh, that is very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
What?
We'll see you next Friday, buddy.
Okay, have a good weekend, everybody. Bye.
Bye. I don't know, Albert, what do you think? You want to do a little news? We kind of ran long with that, and I know that we have Jim Avila and Michael Shure that are waiting to talk about some important things. What's your thought?
Yeah, so Michael Shure isn't here yet. So we
Okay.
could just do a pretty short news here, and then we could get to back to the Trump indictment news.
Okay, I'm happy to do that. Let's make it happen. You just cannot do the news. I'm Kim McAllister on the Mark Thompson Show without the lead story of the day, and that is that former President Trump is being indicted by a federal grand jury over his handling of classified documents. It marks the first time that a former president will face federal criminal charges. In an interview Thursday with Fox News Digital, Trump said he is totally innocent. He'll be pleading not guilty. A months-long investigation into these documents followed the FBI's discovery of sensitive materials during a raid of his Mar-a-Lago estate last year. Yeah. President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden are in North Carolina at this hour. They will visit the newly renamed Fort Liberty, which was formerly Fort Bragg, attending an event in support of a program called Joining Forces, which is Jill Biden's initiative to support military and veteran families, caregivers, and survivors. Wanted to talk about White House Pride as well. The White House preparing to host its largest Pride celebration ever tomorrow. It was supposed to happen last night on the South Lawn, but it was pushed back to keep guests safe from unhealthy air in the area. Thousands, though, are expected to attend, including LGBTQ families from across the country. The event set to include food, games, and a performance by singer Betty Who. A social media stunt has landed a Louisiana man behind bars. His name is Jacob Percival. He is seen on video jumping over a fence to sneak into Busch Gardens in Tampa Bay. The 20-year-old then walked into the alligator exhibit and jumped into the water with the animals. What is this, FFF? Two of his buddies who tagged along from the suburbs of Baton Rouge caught it all on camera. Percival was about 5 feet away from an alligator before climbing out. He is now under arrest for burglary, theft of services, and trespassing as well. So
my bad. I'm sorry.
A little more information. The Department of Justice is unsealing the federal indictment of former President Trump. They expect to hold a news conference this afternoon. The indictment, according to the DOJ, says Trump stored classified information, including U.S. nuclear programs and defense and weapons capabilities on both the U.S. and foreign countries in boxes during his time as president. The DOJ alleges when Trump's time as president ended, those boxes with the classified documents that he was not authorized to keep were transported to his Florida residence. The indictment also detailing two incidents in 2021 when former President Trump showed classified documents to others at the Trump National Golf Club in Bedminster, New Jersey. So that is the latest information about what is in the indictment, the federal indictment of former President Trump. And we'll explore it more in just a few moments with Jim Avila and Michael Shure, both award-winning reporters, both with the most interesting takes on this whole thing with former President Trump. Walgreens is introducing a Chicago store with just 2 aisles. This may be where we're headed. Most products are being kept hidden away from customers. What was once a typical Walgreens in the downtown location is now a digital experimental experience.
What?
Walgreens says the mission was not to deter theft. The 2 aisles will carry everyday needs like soap and body wash, batteries, first aid supplies, over-the-counter meds, and snacks. The rest, including makeup, hair color, beer, and wine, will only be able to be purchased through a kiosk system in the store or ordered ahead through the app. Now, if they have to do this in Chicago, they must have as big a problems as San Francisco. That's what I'm thinking. I'm telling you. That's the way we're headed. We're going to have everything else hidden away. You'll have to ask for it so people can't walk in and just steal everything. I'm Kim McAllister, and this is The Mark Thompson Show.
The Mark Thompson Show.
All right, let us now welcome these two amazing friends of The Mark Thompson Show. I have been waiting for this for at least since about, I'd say, 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon. I'm very excited to welcome back award-winning journalist Jim Avila, friend of the show. Hi, Jim.
How you doing, Kim? Lots of new developments just happened, as you saw, as you just reported.
Yeah, let's get into it, and let's bring on Michael Shure as well, another award-winning journalist and friend of the show. Hi.
Hey, Kim, how are you?
So good. So another indictment, another day, another indictment, one could say. And now we know a little bit more. Jim, can you get into this for us? Because I know we have a little more information about what's in that indictment.
Right. And I sent it to you and Albert, so you could probably put some of it up on the screen. It does go into detail. So this is a lot different than what happened in New York, right away. And in fact, as you mentioned as well, Jack Smith is going to have a news conference at noon Pacific time, where he'll probably talk more about this indictment. But you know, it's very strong, and in fact, the strongest parts you reported is it details what's in these documents. And part of what's in these documents are nuclear secrets. Were in the documents. Specifically says nuclear secrets. So specifically says defense plans for the United States and for our allies are in this.
That's kind of the worst of the worst scenario, isn't it? Like that's the absolute thing you don't want him to have.
Yeah, I think that, you know, that this is Republicans who are trying to dismiss it as not important or a witch hunt really have to deal with what they're seeing with this. This is pretty strong stuff, Michael.
It is, and so there are a couple of points that are important to make here. Is that Trump very clearly on tape, according to this, admitted to not having declassified these documents before leaving office, which would have been an out for him. The other part of this, I think, when taken en masse, is that the politicization of this is going to be very difficult. If Republicans who have supported Trump in the past see what has happened here with nuclear secrets, with the misbehaving of a former president, even in contrast to a sitting president and a former vice president at whose homes they found some of these similar types of documents, at least not at the archives in their possession. We don't know the details of them. This stands juxtaposed to that because of how egregious it was. And it should is a big word these days, talk to the politicization of this. This is not about politics if you take what's in this indictment seriously. And it's going to take some Republicans to stand up and admit that. Some Republicans, frankly, who supported this guy in the past.
Let me read you one paragraph here, folks,
yes.
in this indictment. In August or September of 2021 at the Bedminster Club, Trump showed a representative of his political action committee who did not possess a security clearance, a classified map related to a military operation, and told the representatives that he should not be showing it to the representative and that the representative should not get too close. It's just...
Don't get too close to me, top secret. I'm sorry, step away.
It's showing off, basically. He's saying, look at me, I was the president. I'm from Queens, and I was the president. And you don't get too close to this because you're not supposed to see it. But the bottom line is he wasn't supposed to show it, and that's why he was indicted.
One more. In July 2021 at Trump National Club in Bedminster, New Jersey, during an audio recorded meeting with a writer, a publisher, and members of his staff, none of whom possessed a security clearance, Trump showed and described a plan of attack that Trump said was prepared for him by the Department of Defense and a senior military official. Trump told the individuals that the plan was highly confidential and secret. Trump also said, as president, I could have classified it and I could have declassified it, declassified it, it's an important word, and now I cannot, because it's still a secret. That's the one we've been hearing about, of course.
Yeah, which
but
leads
it's right
to
there in the indictment.
that he had knowledge of what he needed to do and didn't. So that kind of shows that he knew what was happening here.
And this is sobering stuff. I mean, this is actually chilling stuff to a degree, because this is a wayward president showing things and taking them lightly, things that are among the most seriously protected and classified documents. This isn't just, a classified document about the president speaking off the cuff about an undersecretary nominee that he's putting before the Senate. This is serious military and nuclear information, according to the indictment.
That is, and we're trusting the world's biggest idiot to handle that. And it doesn't matter what an idiot he acts like. It seems like he gets away with everything.
Well, that's just it. Yeah, I mean, I think Jim was going to. I'll let Jim talk about that.
No, go ahead, Michael.
No,
I have some more details in here when you get done.
Yeah. I mean, just to answer what Kim was saying, I mean, whether or not you think he's the world's biggest idiot, he was the elected president, and he was the person who was privy to this. What he did with it is what should get Democrats and Republicans and Americans infuriated. So whatever sort of opinions you want to cast on the man, the role of president and the role of someone who's entrusted with classified documents is not to share them, and not to share them with a PAC donor at your country club.
That's why I say idiot. Yes.
Yeah. And so I think that's important to remember. The other thing is that, there's going to be a lot of Democrats who lean back and say, imagine if Obama had done this, or Clinton or Carter, right? That's not enough to say. That's the thoughts and prayers of Democrats, right? That's not enough to say. You have to do something here. And you have to say that this is now depoliticized. This is somebody who went awry of the law, who had our most sacred secrets shared with people who anybody knows, or nobody knows.
But they're not saying that. I mean, they're lining up behind him already. And listen to this, you two. He had these documents, according to this indictment. They had them at the Mar-a-Lago estate, including in a ballroom, in his bedroom, and even a bathroom.
Yeah,
I don't know how. Yeah, what? And so how you compare, or how you keep lining up behind this person, it's unfathomable to me. That's a thing.
So in the document as well, that was just released, the affidavit behind the indictment, it talks about why he's charged with obstruction. A, suggesting that his attorney falsely represent to the FBI and grand jury that Trump did not have documents called for by the grand jury subpoena. Directing defendant Waltine Nauta, that's the guy who was his bag man, his body man, to move boxes of documents to conceal them from Trump's attorney, the FBI, and the grand jury. So that's the conspiracy charge, right? He tells his aide to move the boxes and hide them from the FBI. And then he caused a certification to be submitted to the FBI grand jury, falsely representing that all documents called for by the grand jury subpoena had been produced, while knowing that in fact not all such documents had been produced. So, as a friend of mine just texted me a moment, his goose is cooked.
Yeah, there are 37 counts in this federal indictment.
I think what Jim's friend said is important too, because it doesn't matter what Republicans say. It doesn't matter what Democrats say. It matters what the law says and what he did. And the cooking of the goose seems to have started because however much you stand behind this person, if he is in fact an indicted and then convicted criminal, that's the law of the land, and that's the law. This is a federal indictment. This is not just a state indictment. And so I think it's super important to remember that a lot of this is noise and the partisanship and the politicization, which is why it will behoove some Republicans who have formerly supported this president, this former president, to actually come away and say exactly, in better terms, what I just said, that this is about the law.
And the bad part too, Kim and Michael, is that, that 30% we always talk about who are always Trumpers no matter what he does can cause a lot of problems between now and the election and after the election. We saw what happened in January 6th. There can be more of that. It would be stupid and it would be over, hopefully, in a flash, but they could start a civil war. I mean, that's not out of the question, is that they will start attacking parts of this country that represent the federal government all over the country. Down here on Wilshire Boulevard, where the FBI is at, that now is in jeopardy because of what he is saying and what his supporters are saying. Now, what I would remind them, not that any of them really listen to this show, but I would remind them that an F-16 will annihilate their handgun. Even their AK-47 will not stand up to the power of the American government. And that they should think twice about mobilizing militias and trying to defend this man. He is going to go to jail if these things are proven, and he belongs there. And let's hope that the 70% that includes independents and Democrats see him for what he is.
I can't believe Jim just doxed the FBI, but whatever.
Let's talk about, though, you mentioned that he could really go to jail, right? And I was reading this article in The Guardian about whether or not jail is a real possibility here. And it looks like they're saying no. They look at all these politicians who have, done things that landed them in hot water, and they all seem to get pardoned, or they seem to never really end up behind bars. So it doesn't look like, that he really will go to jail in this case either.
Well, in this case, there are other cases, and we're talking about precedent. This is unprecedented, right? So there is no analog to what we're talking about right now. Yes, people have been pardoned in the past. This is treason, if proven in court, and so I think you're dealing with a different hand here, and that's why I say that law is generally what prevails, and if people do push back against it, obviously that would be horrendous, and some of the extreme consequences and possibilities that Jim outlined just now, let's obviously hope that we're not going to get to that. But I do think that that's why, consistent with what I said earlier, that's why some Republicans and some far-right Republicans would have a lot of currency to gain by now going against this, by now being outraged at what these indictments say. Because if that is in fact the truth, and what has been presented in this affidavit and these indictments are true, then again, it blurs every political line. This is American, and they call themselves, many of them, patriots. The least patriotic thing to do is share our nuclear secrets with the people. Even Trump at a time, and it's in the indictment, talked about how he's entrusted with these things, and these should not be shared with people unless they are meeting the highest level of security. I'm paraphrasing, but it's in the indictment what Trump has said in the past about this.
It seems like kind of the smoking gun, if you will. I mean, those comments that they could be just turned around and used right against him. Albert, I'd love to play, if we have it, what Trump had to say after the indictments yesterday, if we have that video. But I'll go back to something you just said, Michael Shure, which is something Kevin McCarthy mentioned yesterday, tweeted out. He said, "It is unconscionable for a president to indict the leading candidate opposing him." So kind of to what you just said about they're still supporting him, right? This is from Kevin McCarthy, Speaker of the House. He said, "I and every American who believes in the rule of law stand with President Trump against this grave injustice." Even Ron DeSantis, who is his chief competitor at this point, says, "The weaponization of the federal law enforcement represents a mortal threat to free society. Why so zealous in pursuing Trump, yet so passive about Hillary and Hunter?" They're not backing down.
Yeah.
This was pre-indictment. I mean, Jim can talk about it. This was before.
This was last night.
This was last night. It's going to be hard for these people to stand by these remarks.
Yeah, I think once Jack Smith gets up on this noon press conference and reads this stuff out, and people who care really read about that, it's going to be interesting to see what Fox does with this, because they're, of course, in that bubble when they only watch Fox and the other crazy places, Newsmax. And if they put the indictment on, or if they carry Jack Smith's press conference, that'll be interesting, because they'll be forced to watch what they usually try to ignore and are shielded from. What's in this indictment, I find it hard to believe that Kevin McCarthy even will stand by that statement, because this detail, this is treason. And they, remember on January 6th, right after January 6th, Kevin McCarthy blasted Trump because he actually saw what it was. And then he backpedaled. This is, again, January 6th, what is described in this stuff.
And what another thing to add to that is that, and this is a little forgiving. I mean, Kevin McCarthy is the Speaker of the House. He is a politician. To turn this on the Biden Justice Department is almost a reflexive reaction, or to turn it on to Biden is almost a reflexive reaction from someone who plays on a team like Kevin McCarthy does. At a certain point, though, it's going to backfire. It's going to come back to McCarthy if he sticks with Trump all the way, and these indictments are proven in court. So I get what he's doing. He's a political animal, and that's what political animals do. It's smart to say Joe Biden is doing this. Joe Biden has kept arm's distance. It is his Justice Department. It is his administration. What McCarthy is doing is understandable, but that is going to look as bad as Trump saying that you don't share secrets one day.
Absolutely. And when the independents and the Democrats, even the moderate Democrats, see what's in this, and if he's convicted or continues to have the defense that he's had, which is no defense, I would predict not only will they lose no matter who runs as a Democrat in 2024, whether Joe Biden makes it all the way or continues to run or not as a weak candidate, whoever that is will win, and they will suffer massive losses across the country in every purple state that there is, and every purple district that there is. Now, they've gerrymandered things such that they will still hold on to some. Otherwise, it could be a blanket defeat. If you continue to support a man who has done this stuff, how can that win?
Yeah, and not to mention yesterday, this is yesterday's news now, but the Supreme Court ruling in Alabama likely means that Democrats, because of other states who are going to challenge that and be unable to, it's precedent setting, there are going to be some more seats for Democrats in the next Congress, regardless, forgetting Trump. And he already has such a slim majority, does McCarthy. So it hasn't been a good day for the Speaker. It hasn't been a good couple of days, but he should be careful about what he supports and how vocally and ferociously he supports it.
So we have the video of Trump's response yesterday. Let's take a look at that.
A boxer's hoax, just like the Russia hoax. And all of the others, it's been going on for 7 years, that they can't stop because it's election interference at the highest level. There's never been anything like what's happened. I'm an innocent man. I'm an innocent person. They had the Mueller hoax, the Mueller report, and that came out. No collusion after 2.5 years. They come after me because now we're leading in the polls again by a lot, against Biden and against the Republicans by a lot. But we're leading against Biden by a lot, a tremendous amount. And we went up to a level that they figured the way they're going to stop us is by using what's called warfare. And that's what it is. This is warfare for the law. And we can't let it happen. We can't let it happen. Our country is going to hell. And they come after Donald Trump. We have such big problems. And this shouldn't be one of them. It's a hoax. The whole thing is a hoax. Just like Russia, just like the fake dossier was a hoax.
Okay.
You saw the Durham report. You saw the Mueller report. It was all a big hoax. You had
we
two
got it.
impeachments, and they lost and we won. And we had tremendous support. But that was a hoax and a scam. Yeah. And now they're doing it again. It's just a continuation, 7 years. I'm innocent, and we will prove that very, very soundly and hopefully very quickly. Thank you very much.
So that's what he has to say. It's a hoax. I'm innocent. Oh, by the way, election interference. I want to fast forward to this. It's a what if scenario. But say he's convicted and also wins the presidency. And as Jim Avila mentioned earlier, is then able to pardon himself and all those involved. What happens to America if we have this guy back in the White House? That is like my absolute, what if horrible things happen, nightmare scenario. What happens to our country?
Well, first of all, I would put that in a box.
Okay.
Because if this doesn't seal it, I'm going to be living in Vancouver. You can send me my check there, because
the Canucks are on an upswing now too.
There we go. Good hockey there.
Yeah.
But
a little smoky up there, but you'll get used to it.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think he's going to win. As I said to you earlier, and I'll let Michael talk about this, there's a very narrow lane that he wins the election, he pardons himself. If he's been convicted already, if the trial is still going on, he can order the Justice Department to stop proceedings. He can do all that as a president. I don't think he's going to become president. I don't think the American people will allow that to happen. And frankly, if they do, this country is not what we believe it to be.
Look, if the possibility exists, I mean, you can play out every fantasy, but part of that fantasy is that he pardons himself in the federal indictments. We're still waiting to hear from Georgia. We still know what we heard from New York. A president can't pardon in state court. There's a lot of legal acreage in front of Donald Trump still, and this is not the only thing. This seems to be horrendous for him, and I agree with Jim. I don't think there's a way that this man can woo independents, that can woo disaffected Democrats. Even in the polling we talked about, I think last week, there's been polling, focus group polling, of people who are Democrats, registered Democrats, who don't like Joe Biden, who don't think that this presidency has been good, who don't want him to run again. Unanimously, without fail, they all said that they would vote for Biden against Trump. So the disaffected Democrat is even not going to vote for Donald Trump. I think the political road ahead, pardon, no pardon, jail, no jail, is very, very difficult for Trump regardless. That's just what I believe. But again, he could pardon himself if he were to become president again. I don't think he would be, and he's not able to pardon himself in state cases.
I think it was that feeling that this will never happen. When he was elected, right? We're not going to worry about this. No one's really going to vote for him. Americans aren't this stupid. And to see that they did and that he was the president makes me feel panic right now. But I hear you, Jim Avila. Don't jump off the ledge just yet. I'll put it in a box. But I feel like it's something to motivate people.
No, I know what you're saying, Kim. There's that once bitten, twice shy thing. But I have to say that in this case, we know so much more about the man.
Right. Yeah.
Republicans and independents know so much more about him. The novelty has worn off for many people. And, aside from the scary stuff like violence and reprisal and things like that, I don't think the worry is the same.
In 2016, people voted for Trump in the middle because they thought, what's the worst that can happen? Let's give it a shot. Well, we have found out what the worst is that can happen, right, as Michael says. And I don't think, I think that 7 years, as Trump put it, of living through what he can do to this country has cured those people in the middle of any fantasy that Donald Trump is good for this country. I don't believe that that'll happen again. I really believe that he has done his best to convince the independents that he is dangerous for this country.
From nuclear secrets to the January 6th investigation, before I let you guys go, I'm going to take up some news time. Instead of news, I want to keep you a little longer if that's okay. But I want to ask you about Newt Gingrich. And I don't know if you saw this article out of CNN, but they are talking about former Republican House Speaker Newt Gingrich testified before a federal grand jury on Thursday investigating January 6th. And what they're saying is that documents obtained by the House Select Committee investigating January 6th apparently claiming Gingrich played a role in the effort to submit fake slates of electors in the battleground states that Trump lost. That according to committee documents. Is anybody surprised by this?
I mean, no. I mean, it's Georgia, and Newt Gingrich is a prominent Georgia Republican. This has been whispered about. I mean, am I surprised about it? No, because there was this. Newt Gingrich was a wildly partisan speaker and became a Trump partisan, and it's. I think he also probably had some battles with Biden and Biden's Judiciary Committee when Biden was in the Senate. So it doesn't surprise. I mean, nothing surprises me anymore. I mean, even this indictment doesn't totally surprise me.
I think he's trying to be relevant again, and I think he found in lane to try to get his name back in, and he attempted some things. Newt Gingrich was the beginning of the destruction of the Republican Party. And he can take responsibility for that and put that in his hat, because it's been a downward slope since then, from him to the Tea Party, now to the MAGA people and to the Freedom Caucus. It's a straight line, and it's they've alienated enough people that they're in bad shape. They're now trying to say that young people should not vote. That I
heard that.
Not only are trying to make it harder by closing polling places on college campuses if they can, but they want to raise the voting age, and prohibit college students from voting on campus, but have to go all the way home to vote. Anything they can do, because they realize that demographics are not in their favor.
No, they are not.
And having people vote, allowing people the franchise has always been a problem for that wing, whatever party it was at the time. And we know that the parties have evolved to be very different from what they were. But it's true. I mean, they wanted, and Newt Gingrich is responsible for so much of the demise of that party and demise of American politics. It's not surprising that they took Dennis Hastert's portrait down. Maybe one day they'll take Newt Gingrich's portrait down.
So I also promised to ask you about the town halls that CNN is doing. Anything you guys want to talk about, or that you've been rolling around thinking about these town halls, why they're doing them, whether we need them, whether anything interesting has come out of them?
I mean, they did the Trump one, and the person who was heading CNN was out of a job. Weeks to a month later. I wouldn't criticize doing that town hall. I would criticize the way they're doing them. It's always, I'm a political junkie, so I like a town hall, but these aren't town halls either. So they're being mislabeled. These are audiences and
they're like little mini rallies,
but with partisans. Yeah. Exactly, they're mini rallies. A town hall is different, and I would guess that a lot of the people that have sat for what you called mini rallies, Kim, would not sit for town halls.
Yeah, and I think that clearly we've talked about the Trump town hall and how bad it was. The Nikki Haley one wasn't much better as far as disinformation and fact checking immediately. Now, afterwards, they did fact check it. They've got that guy, Dan, I can't remember his name, but he's good. And he did a fact check on her. But as we mentioned before,
Dale, right?
What's that?
Is it Dale? Daniel Dale? Is that who?
Yes, that's right. Dan Dale. As we mentioned before, Kim, at the top of the show, she had misinformation about transgender people. Yep. And misinformation about abortion, about Biden and Kamala Harris's position on abortion, right. And they were not fact checked immediately. And in fact, one of the fact checks that Jake tried was not correct. And Pence, Pence did not lie as much, but he wasn't pushed back on some of the crazy things he said, like how do you not ask over and over again, wait a minute, you believe he should be treated like anybody else, but you don't believe that he should be charged if it's found that there's evidence found against him?
Right.
That's totally, why would the moderator not do that? And so, the push by CNN, and I've written about this a couple times, by CNN to go to the middle, what it's done is, first of all, there is no middle. Okay, there's no middle left. People have been driven into choosing sides, and the middle is so small that if you're a network and you're trying to appeal the middle, you're appealing to a very small portion of people. And in this push to appear to get the middle, he's brought on Republicans who are still election deniers. And people who talk over their moderators. That Florida congressman, and Michael will help me with the name, but I think it's Daniels, right?
Yes.
He right after the Trump one.
Donalds. Byron Donalds, is that
Donaldson, right? Donaldson. Right after the Trump, he was on the panel, brought on the panel, and he started yelling, that, and he would not listen to the other commentators. And usually it's a pretty civil place on CNN, where they have a couple of Republicans who are middle of the road Republicans, moderate Republicans. But this guy, they started allowing these folks on. Now he's been banned from CNN again because of that night. But that's the kind of performance that they've allowed to happen.
Yeah. It also puts journalists into a bad position, because it's impossible to do what we're asking them to do in the moment at the time. So they're hurting their brand, they're hurting their team. This is, much more effective, especially with a partisan audience, much more effective for people to sit down across the table on Face the Nation or Meet the Press and do it that way. And that's imperfect as well. So I just think this is backfired clearly on CNN, and they've got to find a better way of doing this. They're in their effort to find the middle, they're alienating everybody.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. So back to the Trump indictment, what we know comes next is he is expected to appear in a Miami federal courthouse on Tuesday. I'm assuming that's going to be a zoo, like the whole New York situation was a zoo. I don't know. What do you think that brings?
Moving a president is always a zoo, right? You have
Yeah.
the Secret Service, you have the local police. It is by its own nature a zoo. And now there's all this attention as to why he's going to be there. What comes out of it? Do they take his passport? Do they, we don't know everything that's going to come out of it. But yeah, I think New York was less zooey than people thought it would be.
Yeah.
So maybe Florida will end up being that way as well.
Guys, I've got to jump off.
Yeah.
I've got a call I got to take. So,
well, we're going to do a little
thanks,
news
Kim.
and
Great to
get
talk
on to
to
the
you.
movies. Thank you, Jim Avila. Thank
See
you
you,
for
Michael.
being here.
Bye, guys. See you later.
Thank
guys.
you, Michael
Bye-bye.
Shure. Have a great afternoon.
You too. Bye-bye.
Yeah. What a great conversation with Jim Avila and Michael Shure, and a lot of really good perspectives. I feel a little calmer now that I have to put all of this in a box. Let's do a little news, and then we'll get to the movies with Michael Snyder. What do you think, Albert?
Yeah, a little quicker news so we could get to Michael. We're
Let's do
a
it.
little late, so that's not what I was looking for. This is what I'm looking for.
I'm Kim McAllister on The Mark Thompson Show, and this report is sponsored by Tenuta Winery. The Department of Justice says former President Trump stored classified information, including U.S. nuclear programs and defense and weapons capabilities. DOJ unsealing the federal indictment of Trump a day after he announced he would become the first former president to face federal charges. Trump and his aide, Walt Nauta, facing a total of 38 counts in this indictment. Congressional Republicans, rallying around Donald Trump following the news of this indictment over the mishandling of documents. As mentioned earlier, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, Majority Leader Steve Scalise, and Conference Chair Elise Stefanik accusing President Biden of weaponizing the Justice Department against his political rival. McCarthy called it unconscionable, said his conference will hold this brazen weaponization of power accountable. The smoke from the Canadian wildfire is still impacting the U.S., but air quality levels are improving a little bit in the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic. Air quality alerts remain in effect for Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, Indiana, Ohio, and Michigan. Forecasters expect a wind shift this weekend to help disperse the remaining haze. And the Florida woman charged in the shooting and killing of her neighbor over a dispute with noise from her children is being held on a $154,000 bond. Susan Lawrence, appearing in court today in Marion County. Lawrence, who is white, is charged with manslaughter and the death of Ocala mother A.J. Owens, who is black. That happened on June 2nd. And I'm Kim McAllister, and this is the Mark Thompson Show. This report is sponsored by Tenuta Vineyards, of course, home of the Why Are You Yelling Red? And of course, the Hey, which one of you is Mark Thompson Pinot Grigio? And you know, the very good thing is that because you are part of the Mark Thompson Show family, you have the opportunity to smash it with your iron rod and get 10%
with your
off.
Iron rod.
That's right, at Tenuta Winery. So all you have to do is call them, say, smash it with your iron rod. You get your 10% off. And they've got a slew of wines. We're talking 14 reds, 14 whites, and you can customize with the labels. It's really a cool deal. You can call Rich at Tenuta in Livermore at 925-699-4576 and make your reservation to go wine tasting, or just order your wine right from there. I'm telling you, this Why Are You Yelling Red is amazing. We'll do movies next with Michael Snyder on The Mark Thompson Show.
Feel it in your soul. The Mark Thompson Show.
And we are back looking at what lies ahead for the movies. We love Michael Snyder. He comes and goes on a rainbow. Welcome to you, my friend.
And it's a pleasure to be here. And I don't need a rainbow when I've got Kim Possible, Alberto Producero, and wait a minute. Hold on. Mark who? Mark, I don't know a guy named Mark. Oh, wait, there's the rainbow. Man, someone's been hitting the Tenuta Vineyards Cabernet, I think.
I'm telling you, you know.
Great stuff. Kim, I have to say quickly, I like to sometimes start with a fun fact. Nikki Haley was just crowned Miss Information in this year's annual pageant.
Excellent.
I just thought people should know.
Well done. Well done.
People had to know. Well, thank you. Thank you.
That's very good. Oh, and I just have to mention a big thank you to Kathleen for the super sticker, $20 super sticker. Thank you. You know, the show is crowdfunded, so we do rely on you for that. You can find more information at themarkthompsonshow.com. And of course, thank you for the super sticker, Kathleen. We appreciate that. So you've got some movies to talk about this time around.
I do. I want to start out by saying I did not see the big blockbuster opening today, Transformers: Rise of the Beasts, because whenever I see a Transformers movie, it's more like the sinking of the Michael. I had a choice between Rise of the Beasts and seeing the upcoming Flash movie, and I think I chose wisely. I did like a Transformers movie called Bumblebee that was sort of a period piece with Haley Steinfeld bonding with a robot, but the rest of them have just not been my cup of tea. So I apologize for fans of robots in disguise. In this case, I think they turn into animals, or they look like animals and turn into... you know what? Let's move on to something more human. What do you say?
Yeah, why not? What about Dollyland?
Okay, so Dollyland was directed by Mary Harron, and Mary Harron was the director of such films as American Psycho, and I Shot Andy Warhol, The Notorious Betty Page, and Charlie Says about Charles Manson. So she has a real affinity for, I guess, quirky, eccentric people, real-life oddities and outliers whose personal experiences, are compelling enough to make a movie exciting. And in the case of Dollyland, we have a Baroque mix of biographical fancy and period fetish that looks at the latter days of the very flamboyant master of surrealist art, and he was also a gleeful provocateur, Salvador Dali. And this is about his life in tandem with his wife and the love of his life, Gala. So the significant events in the movie, which is primarily set in 1974, include exclusive parties in Dali's upscale New York City hotel suite, in-studio painting sessions, chic gallery openings, elegant dinners that descend into backbiting, and of course, you got to have this, getaways to Dali's beloved Spain and also France, all seen through the ideas of this very good-looking but kind of callow guy named James. So this guy named James is a young man trying to break into the art world by working as an assistant to Dali's Manhattan-based rep. So the movie's point of view is that of an outsider, but this is really first and foremost a portrait of the artist as an iconoclast and a guy who could be, we'll call him difficult. I mean, Dali was somebody of massive talent with a very whimsical personality, but from considerable anecdotal evidence, he was given to near infantile willfulness. He acted like a big baby sometimes. He was plagued by insecurity. So you need a good actor for something like this. And the actor playing the role of this mustachioed marvel is crucial to making Daliland work. And it's fortunate that the movie is anchored by a very kind of sly and complex performance from the distinguished thespian Ben Kingsley. So he plays this pioneering strange man, and it's also further enhanced by a renowned German leading lady, Barbara Zukawa, as the kind of controlling, money-obsessed Gala, who was Dali's original muse and sometimes tormentor. So their relationship is at the heart of it. Kingsley, he's just fantastic. The guy won the Oscar for the 1982 Gandhi movie, and he's played everything from, an aristocrat to an ordinary guy to a vicious gangster. He's a Marvel Comics villain, and he actually also played Sweeney Todd. And he has such versatility. He renders Dali as this really complex, fascinating creature. Sugawa is great. I really was caught up by Daliland, and some people may bitch about it being a little on the kind of conventional side in terms of, it's what you'd kind of expect from what we know about Salvador Dali, but I really love the performances. And you even get, speaking of The Flash, Ezra Miller, the headline grabber, the TMZ favorite, plays the young Dali in various kind of flashback sequences. I really enjoyed Daliland, and if it sounds like it's in your wheelhouse, check it out. And it's in theaters and also streaming on demand. So that's very, very good in my book.
So you like Daliland. Okay.
I did. I say hello, Dali.
Okay. Let's take a look at your next movie, which is Blue Jean.
Okay. Blue Jean is fiction in the strictest sense, but it's the story basically that still rings true today and has a lot of honesty and truth to it. Writer-director Georgia Oakley has made a very moving drama about what happens in 1988 in the gay and lesbian community in England, because during that period, Prime Minister Maggie Thatcher's conservative government was trying to crack down on gays and lesbians with a kind of a law intended to ruin anyone who dares to be homosexual. So this movie is about a young woman, or maybe not so young, named Jean, played by Rosie McEwen. She's a secondary school gym teacher in England, and she's also a closeted lesbian. Despite having a girlfriend and a group of more out comrades in the gay club scene, Jean fears losing her job and alienating family members, so she's kind of kept that aspect of her life a secret. And again, her fears are well-founded because of Thatcher's repressive government. So reacting to the institutional homophobia with kind of righteous indignation, Jean's girlfriend, Viv, wants to go public and demonstrate against the law, and Jean is very, very reluctant to do that. And she, in the meanwhile, encounters one of her students at a lesbian bar, and the idea that this girl might reveal Jean's double life to school administrators further complicates matters, and it brings the teacher to a crossroads. I mean, McEwen unadorned and generally restrained on screen, as I guess fits her dilemma, manages to convey the depth of Jean's sadness and conflict with like a glance or an almost imperceptible wince. She is superb. And Oakley's script and direction, never a false note emotionally or contextually. And the use of time-specific music and fashion and media bring more authenticity to Blue Jean. Cultural touchstones aside, a depiction of this community under siege and its plea for solidarity against hate are as relevant now as they were then. And, high marks for Blue Jean. It's a terrific movie. It's in select theaters in New York and LA, and it will be opening next Friday in San Francisco and other cities across the country.
Okay, can we look for that streaming as well? That sounds really interesting.
Not quite yet. There's no note on streaming, but it is a worthwhile movie. And Pride Month is upon us. And so I think it's very, very timely in many other ways. Let's go. I want to cover something lighthearted and uplifting.
Flamin' hot?
Hey, the proudly Hispanic actress Eva Longoria, veteran of TV's Desperate Housewives and other provocative roles, rolls out her first effort as a director of feature films. She's not in the movie unless she's pulling an Alfred Hitchcock, and I didn't notice her. Flamin' Hot is the title, and despite the title, it's not about her estimable sex appeal. Let's call it that. No, Flamin' Hot is based on the true story of a working-class Mexican-American named Richard Montañez, who left a rough life on the mean streets of La Raza in SoCal to support his wife and kids with a low-paying janitorial job at a Frito-Lay plant where Fritos and Cheetos were manufactured. So while Richard and his devoted wife, Judy, were struggling to make ends meet in the early 1980s, Ronnie Reagan's America was putting an even bigger squeeze on the poor while trying to sell the bogus idea of trickle-down economics. Yeah, Reagan's doing that in the States. Margaret Thatcher's clamping down on gay and lesbian lifestyles and lives. It wasn't a great time, despite what you may recall about the 1980s. Anyway, times were tight at the Frito factory, but when the chips were down, so to speak, Richard had an idea. Market spicier snacks to the Hispanic market. So Flamin' Hot is the story of how this guy made Flamin' Hot Cheetos become a massive success for Frito-Lay. But who would listen to it?
This movie is about Flamin' Hot Cheetos.
It is about the creation of Flamin' Hot Cheetos. I am not joking. I mean, this is how they became this massive success. I mean, who would listen to a janitor about something that's usually the purview of massive corporate research and development?
Right.
It sounds like a pipe dream, or maybe it's an American dream in action. You're going to have to watch the movie to see, and preferably with a bag of Cheetos and a Pepsi. Yeah, the product placement is more than overt. I mean, let's be straight up about this. PepsiCo, which is the Pepsi-Cola company, was Frito-Lay's parent company. And so we do get, like I said, product placement here. But we also get relative unknown Jesse Garcia, who is very compelling and likable as Richard, and Annie Gonzalez, equally impressive as Judy. And there are some reliable veterans in the cast, all of whom are welcome. They include Tony Shalhoub as the then president of PepsiCo, Dennis Haysbert, that's right, Mr. Allstate, the voice of God, as a very savvy co-worker who mentors Richard, and Matt Walsh from Veep, a guy I've met recently, a tremendous guy who also co-founded the Upright Citizens Brigade sketch comedy school. Matt Walsh as Richard's dominating and kind of almost a little on the racist side floor manager at the factory. The script by Linda Yvette Chavez and Louis Colic is pretty standard feel-good stuff, but kudos to Longoria, who gets fine performances from the actors and delivers an enjoyable and thoroughly professional dramedy and biopic. After Flamin' Hot, this housewife shouldn't be desperate for directing gigs. She does a great job here. And guess what, Kim? It may be in theaters, but it's also now streaming on Hulu. Flamin' Hot.
Nice. Flamin' Hot. Who would have thought a movie about Cheetos, but you liked it. All right.
I enjoyed it. It's boilerplate feel good stuff, but everybody brings their A game. And when people do that and it's an uplifting story, hard to resist it, you know?
Let's talk about Blood and Gold.
Yeah, we'll wrap this movie segment up with Blood and Gold. It's incredibly watchable, just like Flamin' Hot, but in a B-movie way. Blood and Gold, produced for Netflix, is a German action movie set in 1945, near the end of World War II, when the Allies were starting to dominate the sputtering Nazi war machine. So aware that they're going to be on the losing end, an SS troop led by this disfigured, demented officer arrives at a rural town to seek out a cache of gold bars left behind by a Jewish family that was driven away in the wake of Kristallnacht, the beginning of the oppression of Jews in Germany. So earlier, the SS contingent had hung a square-jawed German private who was conscripted and didn't want to join in, wasn't a true believer, and tried to desert in order to find and be reunited with his young daughter as the war was ending. So they're not happy about that. They hang the guy, but those nasty Nazis didn't count on the so-called deserter surviving the hanging attempt, and with the help of a local farm girl getting the gold, or at least getting in the way of getting the gold. A handful of locals know about the gold in this town and have designs of getting away with it themselves. So there's a lot of a Quentin Tarantino vibe to Blood and Gold, with some grisly action and crazy reversals, explosive set pieces, ridiculously durable protagonists and antagonists. This guy survives a hanging. Seriously. And there's a very upfront soundtrack of German pop tunes of the era and later. Did you ever hear Marlene Dietrich singing "Where Have All the Flowers Gone" in multiple languages?
Wow.
That's kind of cool. I imagine director Peter Thorwarth is very schooled in Tarantino's movies, and now Blood and Gold has come upon us. And it's not in the same league as Tarantino's awesomely unhinged World War II movie, Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah.
But it's streaming for free, and if you have a Netflix subscription, sehr gut. It is mostly in German with English subtitles. It's Blood and Gold, and it's on Netflix. Thank you. Before we head out, a couple of brief notes. We lost two of my favorite humanoids this past week, and very, very different people. Astrid Gilberto, the goddess-like voice of Bossa Nova, passed away this past week. And, if you've heard the girl from Ipanema, you know her work, but she recorded so many beautiful songs, many by the bard of the Bossa Nova, Antonio Carlos Jobim, and she left us. And Roger Craig, the manager of the Giants, who led them to the 1989 Earthquake World Series. God, I had the chance to meet the guy, and it was like meeting some kind of foxy grandpa. This guy was savvy and hip. He was an older man, but man, he was right in the pocket, and he was able to get along with the likes of Will Clark, Kevin Mitchell, and Matt Williams, and bring them to a National League pennant. I miss them both. And I'm mourning some TV shows. Ted Lasso on Apple TV ended after 3 seasons, although hopes for a spinoff remain. About something about the football club AFC Richmond and the various characters. Succession and Barry have gone out with some bangs on HBO, and the bangs in Barry particularly loud. And then there's the absolutely ridiculous premature cancellation of Perry Mason on HBO after 2 stellar seasons.
Oh.
Matthew Rhys was magnificent. The everything about it, the direction, the art direction, the writing. They needed at least a 3rd season. And the bean counters at Warner's Discovery, I betcha, were responsible and have struck again. So all is not bad news on the video front. This coming week, Star Trek Strange New Worlds is back for a 2nd season on Paramount Plus. And that's my little TV report.
I love that you do that, because I really listen to what you have to say TV-wise. I don't always love the TV shows that you tell me to watch. Sometimes they're a little violent for me, but a lot of times you get it exactly right. So I appreciate that you add TV to the end of it. Let me do a little recap. You loved Dollyland.
Mostly for the performance by
performances.
The performances by Ben Kingsley and Barbara Zukawa were wonderful.
You called Blue Jeans superb.
Yeah.
Flamin' Hot, you actually liked it. You said it's kind of a professional thing going on there, and you enjoyed it.
Yeah. Cheers to Eva Longoria. Nice job, Eva.
And you said Blood and Gold is watchable.
Fun.
Fun and watchable. Okay.
Violent fun, not for Kim, but
not
for
me.
Oh, and if you haven't seen Star Trek Strange New Worlds and you have a Paramount Plus subscription, it's the adventures of the Enterprise crew prior to Kirk and the Spock, and it's with the young Spock, and the actors are wonderful. It's a treat as far as this Trek fan goes.
Well, you are amazing, and I love having you on Fridays. I appreciate your movie reviews and your thoughtfulness, and there's so many ding words that were in there that I just I can't ding them all. You're just like one giant ding. What happened there.
Hey, if you want to,
yeah, it sounds like someone stole something from the department store. That's
no. If you want to read, I'll tell you, if you want to read more about Dollyland and Blue Jean, it's on the cover of the current issue of the Marina Times. My piece on those movies, and it's also available at marinatimes.com. Just a little plug for me.
Absolutely. And where can people find you online?
I am at Culture Blaster on Twitter and Michael Snyder's Culture Blast page on Facebook. And I'm also on Instagram because, gotta stay visual.
That's right. I have it at the bottom of the screen. Michael Snyder, thank you so much. He comes and goes on a rainbow.
Go Giants!
Thank you, Michael Snyder. We have some people to thank. Of course, I haven't hit it hard enough, but I'll tell you, we so appreciate everyone who is contributing via Patreon and PayPal as well. You can find that at themarkthompsonshow.com if you're interested in helping that way. But I do want to thank people that have also contributed via the super stickers today on the broadcast.
There's never been anything like this.
Yeah, there's never been anything like you, pal. Gail Guthrie for $20. Happy Friday. Love the show, Kim. Thank you, Gail.
Thank you
Of the show. I think I might cry when it comes to you, Gail. I really do. Thank you for being here.
I'm not gonna cry.
Wes with $20. Happy Indictment List Day and happy Friday. Happy Friday.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the $20. Also, Kathleen Bryant, thank you for the $20 super sticker.
Much.
So grateful to that. And Lorraine,
thank you so much.
With a $10 super sticker. Thank you very much for that as well. You guys are so kind and generous, and we couldn't do the show without you. So we thank you. TheMarkThompsonShow.com is where you can find more information.
Thank you.
About how to help support us. So we had a great day. We had Jim Avila right off the top talking about the Trump indictment. We had then Albert, your amazing Friday Fabulous Florida segment. Thank you for that. Some good stuff in there. Also, and again, Michael Shure, Jim Avila, Michael Snyder. Thank you to all the great guests today. And we will be back on Monday with the Mark Thompson Show. Until then, bye-bye.